Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. and I'll call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting agenda for Monday, June 15th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen. Director Duff.
Present.
Director Martin.
Present.
Vice President Griffith.
Present.
President Sewell.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
And I'll just note that Director Meyerhoffen did reach out. He's under the weather and his absence will be excused today. Item 3, we have no one participating remotely, so we can skip that. And moving on to the pledge, if you'd please rise. Director Martin, would you like to lead us?
Place your hand over your heart and salute our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 5, rules of procedure. Counselor?
I don't have anything to report on the rules of procedure at this meeting.
Item 6, public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board?
President Sewell, not online.
Thank you. Employee recognition. Item 7, human resources report. General Manager?
Yes, thank you, President Sewell. Today, we have one new hire and 2 anniversaries that we would like to highlight. The first new hire is Field Operations Technician Richard Andrade. Comes from High Desert Water Agency, where he was an operator. His experience operating heavy machinery, laying and replacing pipe, dealing with leaks, hydrant laterals and services. Richard also holds a Class A commercial driver's license. Here to introduce Richard is Supervisor Jeff Nutter. Jeff?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Sewell and the members of the board. I'm pleased to announce the hiring of Richie as our new Field Operation Technician 1 in the Construction Maintenance Department. Richard brings extensive experience in construction maintenance, as General Manager Macy was saying, within the Water District. Richie has served in a similar capacity at High Desert Water, where he has performed various tasks and construction projects, from the installation of new water mains to helping with maintenance projects, repairing leaks, and operating equipment. His hands-on experience and knowledge in the field will be valuable, as we continue to improve our system. We are very confident that Richie's experience and dedication will greatly contribute to our ongoing success and efficiency of our operations. Again, I appreciate everything he's done. So, Richie, you want to say anything?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. This month, we have 2 employees celebrating anniversaries representing, I know sometimes we say 30, even sometimes 50, but in this particular case, 7 years of experience to our customers. This includes Adrian Godnoa, Field Representative 1, who is celebrating 2 years of service, and I apologize if I butchered his name. I'm pretty sure I just did. Apologize for that. And with 5 years of service, Michael Moore. Oh, there we go. Michael Moore, always willing to lend a hand to any department. I am told he is always willing to stay late if needed and repair an emergency leaks. I don't know if that means he was here all weekend like some of our staff was, but Saturday, okay. Here to formally introduce Michael is Jeff Nutter. Jeff?
Again, thank you, General Manager Macy and President Sewell and members of the board. I'm pleased to have the chance to announce Mike and his completion of his 5 years dedicated employment with Water District. He has came here with previous experience before coming here to Mission Springs Water District. During the last 5 years, Mike has demonstrated exceptional commitment, contributing significantly to our operations within the construction maintenance department. Mike continues understanding of our goals and continues to help out in key projects that we have enhanced of our, that we have enhanced our water district distribution system, such as the section job we did on First Street is a key component about doing shutdowns and helping out install that main to prevent any further leaks. He has also been a part of the Painted Hills abandonment that we're doing. Mike has consistently shown the willingness to help out whenever he can. Ensuring that our services meet the highest standards of quality. So like General Manager Mason was saying, he was here Saturday helping out staff with leaks and stuff over the weekend. He has helped to keep the valve maintenance program going throughout the years. He has also helped to complete the requirements of the blow-off program and our air maintenance program that we do on an annual basis. Mike continues to help with the completion of daily tasks in the departments. We look forward to Mike's continued growth and success within our organization and are confident that he will continue making a significant contribute to the years to come. I'd also like just to thank both Richie and Mike, and also the whole construction maintenance department right now. They've been working hard in the last few weeks. It's hot out there. And, Mike and, Richie and the rest of the construction maintenance crew, they don't always get the time to take a break, take lunch, in air conditioning. So you two are here. So I want to say thank you. And to the rest of the construction maintenance crew, all the hard work and effort that they've been putting in the last 2-3 weeks. It's been extremely tough for them. So I just want to say thanks for all of them. Mike, got anything to say?
I want to tell the board, thank you for your continued support, management, for your guys' direction and support. Also, I'd like to thank Jeff and all the guys that I work with for continuing to always be there for each other. To always get tasks completed and stuff, and make sure we get home safely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Before you walk too far away, we will have a picture, and there is just a small certificate as well as your 5-year pin. The certificate in grateful appreciation of your untiring hard work and commitment to serve above self. Your dedication will have a lasting impact for generations to come. On behalf of Mission Springs Water District, we present this certificate to thank you for your contributions to our community. Thank you, Mike. Let's get a picture real quick. The board can stand up behind us. I just didn't tiptoes of standing next to it.
Sorry. And it's always great to see these milestones and new hires, and just big congratulations, Michael, and welcome to the team, Richard. Happy to have you guys. Thank you. Moving on to action items. Item 8, Resolution 2024-20, Conflict of Interest Code Update. It is recommended that Resolution 2024-20, amending the Mission Springs Water District Conflict of Interest Code, be adopted. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. We covered this item on Thursday. It is part of the Form 700 process and is simply removing a position that's no longer on our salary matrix, the government and public affairs position. If there's any other additional question, we'd be more than happy, but I think we covered most of the items well on Thursday. So okay. Any questions?
Any other questions or discussion?
Nope.
And do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 8?
President Sewell, not online.
Okay, we'll close public comment. And with that, we're open for a motion for the item.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9, Resolution 2024-21, amending the classification and compensation plan for fiscal year 2024-25. It is recommended to adopt Resolution 2024-21, amending the employee classification and compensation plan for fiscal year 2024-25.
Thank you, President Sewell. As you may recall, we talked about this item and also voted on this item on Thursday. However, knowing that our typical process is to have a study session on Thursdays and then vote on Monday, we wanted to bring this back in case there was anybody from the public that would like the opportunity to speak or have any comments, because they would normally have one on Monday. So with that, if there's any public comment or any questions from the board, we can answer those.
Any other discussion? And do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on the item?
Not for public comment, no.
Thank you. We'll close the public comment, and we did vote on Thursday, but we were going to do another vote?
No, no vote, just
Okay,
opportunity for the public and for the board to ask additional questions.
Okay. Item 10, Resolution 2024-22, adopting an administrative code. It is recommended to approve Resolution 2024-22, adopting an administrative code.
Thank you, President Sewell. We covered this item on Thursday. We had a very good discussion about the ideas of this code and what it establishes, basically allowing MSWD to have most of its important resolutions, ordinances, meeting motions, et cetera, in one place to aid in transparency. As we discussed on Thursday, we acknowledge that this new code only brings the items together, and it's a first part of the process, if you will. The next step will be cleaning up these items and bringing them back to you both as resolutions, ordinance, or however they were first adopted or discussed, and then cleaning those up, and then of course implementing them into this new code. We will start with sections of the code, bringing them to the board in an August workshop to clean them up. Some of the modified ordinances or what have you, probably starting with the first couple of sections, something small, if you will, but then bring some of the more meatier ones back to you later in the year. So if there's any additional questions.
Any questions, comments? The only one I had is, do you know when it's going to go live on the website?
I believe once this resolution is passed, it will be live either today or tomorrow, but definitely before the end of the week.
Okay, the only thing maybe, because I know that there's a few that kind of really stick out that are from the past, that like the smoking in the boardroom and things like that. Maybe there's a line that we can add towards the top that, like a disclaimer that these are going to be.
We will work with staff that this is only draft or it's under, I don't want to necessarily under construction, because that's usually for the website or a web page, but we'll definitely say under development. And that way, can be modified at any time, and we'll come up with something.
Okay, and maybe that first workshop, some of those real outlier ones are ones we could address first.
Okay.
So,
Can we make sure that the one I brought up the other day is not posted and put as under revision, referring to how directors are elected, since it stated that directors may reside anywhere in the city, which is not true. They are elected by district. They must reside in the district in which they're elected.
We will come up with some type of language with our legal counsel that will allow us to implement them, but also understand that they're under, that they're being looked at to be amended.
Okay, this is election year, and there is a lot in that is false.
It is, and that will be one of the ones we bring sooner than later for that obvious reason. But again, it's been that way for years, but this is an opportunity to bring it to light and clean it up. But I agree with you
I
wholeheartedly.
understand it's been that way for years, but what I don't think we want to do is post something up there that gives people who might want to run for office the false impression that they can run for office for districts that are up when they don't live in that district, and then you might have an issue on your hands. So
we'll work with legal to make sure that we have it appropriately addressed, and understand that this is something that's going to be improved in the future and may not be accurate at the time. So we'll do that.
okay. And do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board on item 10?
President Sewell, we do not.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. And with that, do we have a motion on the item?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-2022, adopting an administrative code.
And I'll make a second. And with a motion and a second, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith.
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11, contract amendment number 1 with Lane Christensen Company for the downhole rehabilitation of well 42. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to execute contract amendment number 1 with Lane Christensen Company for site work and well fitting for new well 42 in the amount of $234,000 from $3,843,867.89 to $4,077,867.89. Augment the capital improvement budget for job number 11147 in the amount of $234,000 from $4,739,000 to $4,973,000 and do all things necessary to complete the project. General Manager?
Uh, Thank you, President Sewell. We did discuss this item on Thursday. This requested amendment is to provide necessary funding for well casing treatment as well as reinstall a contingency if there are any issues as we continue to move forward with the above ground modifications or installation of buildings and other appurtenances. If you have any additional questions on the board, our engineering manager, Eric Weck, is available for those questions.
Any additional questions, Director Martin? Director Duff?
Just one. I just want to clarify the difference between the contract augmentation and the capital improvement budget augmentation. Is that all staff costs or is that for additional contracts that we aren't seeing here?
So this particular one is all the contract with the contractor, Lane Christensen. Unlike one in a couple following items where we have costs for both the contractor and staff, this one is specifically for the contractor.
Well, it says that the contract is concluding at $4,077,000, but that the budget improvement is being to $4,900,000. So I just am trying to understand if that extra several hundred thousand is the difference in staff or if there's other contracts that are picking up that difference in the budget between the budget and the contract.
So I may have missed some of the numbers you were talking about. There's several components to this. The capital improvement budget, which is the number that you see there, the 11147, that includes design services, our efforts, construction management, and all of those items. So that's why that number is now going to be, if approved, 4.973 million. That includes everything.
Staff time. Additional
Yes,
contracts that go toward this work that Christensen is not responsible for.
Correct.
That is exactly what I need
correct.
to clarify.
So the
Thank you.
$4 million is going to be the contract amendment or total contract for Lane Christensen. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Vice President? Right, and I have nothing further. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 11?
President Sewell, we do not.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 12, contract amendment number 2 with Kyle Groundwater Incorporated to develop a well rehabilitation prioritization program. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to execute contract amendment number 2 with Kyle Groundwater Incorporated to develop a well rehabilitation prioritization program in the amount of $17,070 from $73,206 to $90,276 and do all things necessary to complete the project. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. This requested amendment is to provide funding to complete all the well rehabilitation prioritization, which was paused as we started rehabbing wells, which were taken out of service due to required maintenance. So really, this is just to restore and restart a project that we started several years ago. We did discuss this item on Thursday. If there are any additional questions, myself or Director of Operations, Danny Friend, is here to answer those questions.
Thank you. Anything further, Director Duff?
I just want to verify, and then for some reason my note isn't right in front of me. We've got 7 now that are being prioritized, correct?
I'll ask Danny to, I know we put up a
7
slide.
remaining. Yeah, we had the slide and I wrote down a note and I can't find it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good afternoon. The prioritization project is still all of our wells. So even though we had to we were reactive and we addressed some issues, at the end of the day, as I mentioned, but maybe it was missed, but Thursday I mentioned that the ones that were recently rehabbed will likely go to the end of the list as far as prioritization. But the idea is to take a look at what we're going to be doing going forward, not only now, but the discussion led to, and I believe in a different item, if some work was going to lead to what was a life cycle, was it going to add 10 years, 15 years? And I heard the general manager make a comment to at least 20 years. And I know he made a comment that he'd like to see him pulled every 10 to 20, but I'd like to see him pulled probably more frequent than that. And our goal here is to have the experts tell us that what is industry standard, what are we dealing with here at the district? And just because we pull a motor or pull something out of the ground doesn't necessarily mean that we need to rehab it. Sometimes we want to look at something and see what the conditional assessment is so that we can actually determine if we can be a lower cost repair, catch something before it completely fails. So this whole plan is going to take a look at all of our wells, 13 wells, put them into a prioritization, regardless of at least 5 of them already being worked on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice President? Director Martin?
No.
And I'll just say that I think this is great that we're starting to really be more proactive on this. Is there a timeline? I mean, once we have this, we'll have our list. It's possible things go wrong and the list will change, but how often should something like this take place where we have them all evaluated?
So the goal behind today, or what we're talking about today, is to prioritize. We haven't done it. There's been some delayed maintenance. So how often? This whole program is intended to spell that out for the district.
Okay.
Should we pull them every 7 to 10 years just to inspect? Should we X, Y, Z? What preventative maintenance that we're not doing today should we be doing? So those are some of the things that we're going to come out. That's going to come out of this actual. I mentioned in the staff report, this is more of a strategic planning document for us, even though we're going to identify a lot of things that need to be taken care of sooner rather than later. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to
Thank you.
continue with that, one of the things that we would like to do is if this prioritization was completed, it'd be part of our master plan. So moving forward, and we do upgrade the master plan every 5 years, or at least that's the goal.
Mhm.
Then any changes to this prioritization program will be incorporated in that master plan. So it won't be just a document that we complete and then come back and look at every 7 to 10 years. It's going to be something we look at least every 5 years. And then because we'll be pulling pumps on a routine basis and doing those evaluations, it will give us plenty of opportunities to look at it more routinely than even 5 years.
I agree 100%. Last thing I'll add is they are mechanical. Things do happen. We're asked a lot of them. Sometimes they run 16 to 18 hours a day. Sometimes they run 24 hours a day. In this heat, in the wind, we do our best, but they are mechanical. Hopefully this will allow us to stay on top of it with any major mechanical failures. But again, if we continue our preventative maintenance or PMs that I mentioned earlier, we should see the life cycle of some of these wells go well beyond 20 years without any major costs.
Great, thank you. I think it's gonna be a huge cost savings for the district to just stay on top of everything instead of the running to failure like we used to.
We're getting out of that mode. So we're not out of the woods completely yet on that, but there are some lingering effects of that, but we're working through that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 12?
President Sewell, we do not.
We'll close public comment. Do we have a motion for the item?
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 13, contract amendment number 1 with Legend Pump and Well Service Incorporated and capital project budget augmentation for well 34 rehabilitation. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to execute contract amendment number 1 with Legend Pump and Well Service Incorporated for well 34 in the amount of $30,000 from $622,228.20 to $652,228.20. Augment the capital improvement budget for job number 11742 in the amount of $50,000 from $694,000 to $744,000 and do all things necessary to complete the project. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. This requested amendment is to provide funding for the necessary booster pump maintenance and reservoir cleaning. That is two components. The booster station itself is the contractor, and then the reservoir cleaning is not only the contractor, but also in-house staff to help with that reservoir cleaning. Therefore, you see two different numbers, one for the contractor and then one for the budget augmentation. With that being said, if there's any questions about this item, we did discuss this on Thursday. Eric Weck, our engineering manager, is available, as well as myself for any additional questions.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion, General Director Duff, Vice President? Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 13?
President Sewell, we do not.
We'll close public comment. And do we have a motion on item 13?
I'll move to approve the contract amendment number 1 with Legend Pump Well Service Incorporated and capital project budget augmentation for well 34 rehabilitation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 14, California Special District Association Board of Directors, Seat A, Term 2025-2027, Southern Network. It is recommended that the board review, consider, and select one of the 3 candidates nominated for Seat A, Southern Network, and direct the general manager to vote for the candidate of their choice. So I guess this is our discussion, but
It truly is. There are 3 candidates, McKinsey from Vista Irrigation District, Daffhorn, who is the general manager for Valley Sanitary District here in the Coachella Valley, and then Leah, who is Arupa Valley, or excuse me, Arupa Area Recreational District.
Okay.
So those are the 3 candidates that we're discussing. There are candidate statements in the packet for review by the board. And at the board's direction, we will cast the district's vote for the CSDA position.
and I guess I'll start after looking through them. I think of the 3, there's 2 that are definitely more qualified than the other. And in my opinion, just my interactions that I've had with Jason previously, I would lean towards Jason. I know Joe is also very involved, but I think having someone here in our valley and just that I feel like we've grown our relationship just the past few conferences, that would be my decision. But Director Martin, do you have any preference?
I'm aware of Jason as well, and I concur with your assessment, so support him.
Director Duff?
I agree actually with your assessment as well. The fact that Jason is in our valley here and is our neighbor is something that is definitely speaking volumes to me, although Joe has done an amazing job on the current CSDA board. And so it would be a shame that we have to pick between those 2, right? But Jason, I think being our neighbor is who I would put my vote for.
Okay. Vice President?
I'll be the voice of dissent. Nothing against him, but I think Joe McKenzie has so much experience. But then it is also nice to have new blood, as we know. I will defer to the board.
Well,
We do not have to make a decision today. You can continue to discuss it and we can bring it back. I take that back. It's actually due later this month, so we do have to have board direction. on
I
it.
think even if Director Meyerhoffen was here, we'd still have 3 in favor of Jason.
Okay.
And did we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 14?
President Sewell, we did not.
And do we need a formal motion or?
I don't believe so. I think I've got consensus in how to cast our vote.
Okay. We'll move on to item 15, contract amendments with TKE Engineering Incorporated for on-call professional general engineering services. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to execute 3 contract agreements with TKE Engineering Incorporated for on-call professional general engineering services in the total amount of $415,000 for fiscal year 2024-25. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. The item before you is a contract agreement through our on-call professional general engineering services. The discussion on Thursday went very well. We had representatives from TKE, both vice president, senior vice president, and their president of the company was here. At that time, we were asked to separate the agreements into 3 your board packet has been updated to have the 3 agreements. You'll have 1 agreement for on-call services, which is the typical water resources things and other activities they do for us. And then 2 construction agreements for 2 developments that are ongoing here in Desert Hot Springs, Project Viento and the Pods project. Those are both be reimbursable back to the district. So those costs will go through our operations, but they will be reimbursed through a reimbursable number through our finance system. With that being said, if there's any additional questions, I'm available, as well as Eric Weck, our engineering manager, with it. Questions.
Any questions or comments, Director Martin? Director Duff?
I just want to thank the staff. I know this was a little bit of last minute scrambling to separate and create 3 new contracts, but I do feel that this is the right way forward and definite best practices. The only thing I would say is that your sentence that this is 3 on-call contracts, I would actually state that it's 1 on-call contract with 2 construction management contracts. But other than that, thank you for all your hard work in these last minute changes, and I appreciate the separation of contracts.
Vice President?
Yeah, no.
And I have nothing further. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 15?
President Sewell, we do not.
We'll close public comment on the item. Do we have a motion for the item?
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for item 15. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes.
thank you. Discussion items. Item 16, Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility update. I know we had an update on Thursday. Anything further?
Nothing to add, President Sewell.
Thank you. Anything further from the board?
Nope.
Item 17, Critical Services Center and Administration Building update.
There is no update this month, as we're going through the process of submitting to the Planning Commission. We did provide a link that was then given to the Planning Commission. We provided that to the board if there's any question with those plans. What happened is we were all gearing up for the July meeting, but that Planning Commission meeting at the city was adjourned till August. There has been some discussion about that also being adjourned until September, but we haven't got that confirmed yet. But as such, there's really no changes to the plans as we were getting ready. The last presentation we gave in June was as up to date as they were. There have been some small minor changes, but at this point, the Planning Commission has the lot line adjustment and all the other required information to allow this project to move forward and get acted upon from the Planning Commission and get direction. In addition to that, we've also sent the notices to the properties around the area, letting them know the lot line adjustment. So at this point, everything has been submitted and there's no further update. And once we do have an update, we'll pass that along to the board.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No. Item 18, front lobby discussion. We spoke on this on Thursday, and I think we're going to think about it over the weekend more on each director's individual preference. Was there any further information before we discuss?
No, I don't believe so. Not from staff's perspective. We do appreciate the conversation that we had on Thursday. It gave us a lot of insight to where the board members feel on having that lobby open on Fridays, as well as other times throughout the week. So we're going to continue to do research and try to figure out ways to better serve our customers, and at the appropriate time, bring this back, and have, again, conversations as we get more information. But if there's anything the board would like us to focus on after thinking about it over the weekend, we'd love to hear about it. And then we'll put that as part of the process and bring something to the board, addressing some of those concerns we heard on Thursday.
Okay. Would you like consensus from the board to either allow the closing or?
I think based on the questions that we heard from on Thursday, the answer was no, not to do it at this time. But I think we need additional information brought to the board, both from what is the foot traffic that comes into the lobby, as well as how we're going to staff ourselves to address some of that foot traffic in those times and those trends. So I think we need to bring more information back to the board before we actually ask for a decision at this point. So from that perspective, the discussion was fantastic, in my opinion, and I appreciate the board's insight.
Okay. And do we have any further discussion today, Director Duff, Vice President?
I'll just reiterate what I said, which is I think adding staff would probably be the best solution.
Director Martin?
My assessment is that we could always go with this staff's recommendation on moving forward. It's not cast in concrete. If it turns out it doesn't work or there's problems with doing it, we can always switch back or switch to another alternative. So I don't see a problem with this at all. So
And I like the idea of coming back maybe at the next workshop with, if you get a little more information on the foot traffic on those Fridays. And I would just say, I would be fine if we did try it, but I know we talked about maybe a 6-month trial or something like that. Maybe even shorten that to 3 months or something just to see.
One of the drivers of the timing hook, if you will, was that we were going to be looking at changing the bills. And the bills have our office hours. So that was one of the things we wanted to capture that in changing the bills. So we're going to continue to move forward with that. And we do have some time. I don't know how it syncs up, and I'll have to work with Arturo, our Director of Finance, to see how those timing hooks work and to see if we can bring it back to you and make that change and how that impacts things moving forward. But again, the discussion that we had on Thursday was very helpful for staff, and we know where the board sits on a lot of different items, including how many staff we have or the hours that we're open and how do we accommodate some of those either early folks or later folks. And just thinking about it over the weekend myself, I was thinking that if we do look at the way the foot traffic works, it may not, the way we would typically look at that would be the transactions and when they occurred. But if we had 10 people, we'd be taking each one every 5 minutes, and the curve wouldn't be representative of when those people got in line. So we internally have to look at how do we account for some of those trends. So it was very enlightening, some of the comments, and made us think about it differently as well. So we'll continue the discussion at a later date.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then included with that information, can you provide like the cost to change the bill? Should we choose one way and want to switch back or vice versa?
I don't think the
Okay.
cost is really the issue, other than the way that we would then do the outreach to talk about any changes to the schedule or to the bill. We just wanted to do that all at one time, just to be, one change versus multiple smaller changes. But in this particular case, we're still going to work through some things and then get back to the board and report. So if we do smaller changes, we'll bring that to you. If we do one big change, we'll also bring that to you as well. But obviously, we're not going to move forward without the board's board decision. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to consent agenda, consists of item 19, approval of minutes, and item 20, register of demands. Would anyone like to pull either of those items separately?
No.
Director Duff? Vice President? No. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
so moved.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
and President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 21, director's reports. I believe we all have to go today. Would anyone like to volunteer to go first?
I'll go first. It doesn't.
Sure.
Okay.
Director Martin?
Yes, on the 24th, or excuse me, on the 4th of June, city council meeting, there was an Indian Canyon update and a presentation by CVAG Representative Tom Kirk as being a priority of 3 cities to have Indian Canyon repairs made. There was a co-op agreement with the County of Riverside to provide fire services, and that includes fire prevention, rescue, fire marshal, medical emergency services from July to June 2029. 6th of June, Desert Valley Builders Association legislative meeting, well-attended event as usual. Nothing special to report there. On the 11th of June, Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. Public comments, there was an objection to the warehouse development in residential areas. Of concern is air quality, truck traffic, and safety concerns. We're experiencing a little of that with our own warehouse development. Problems, questions concerning mail-in ballot integrity during the election. And there was a public hearing on distribution of excess tax proceeds. 11 items passed with 1 vote, which really shortened the meeting, which is good news. On the 12th of June, Coachella Valley Economic Partnership morning meeting, there was a presentation on the Palm Springs Short Film Festival. Including the fiscal impact to the entire Coachella Valley. Of a particular note, and I found this out really in my discussion with the speaker after the meeting, was that our own legal counsel, John Pinkney, is on the board of directors for the Short Film Festival. So, and I didn't know that. That was kind of a surprise. That's very cool. Let's see, on the 24th, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, General Assembly, a very well attended event. In fact, more attendance than I was anticipating. And I saw people there that I hadn't seen in a long time, including Martin Magana and Rick Daniels, both in present. On the 24th, Cabot's Museum Foundation meeting, nothing to report there. On the 25th, Riverside County Board Supervisors meeting. There was a lot of public comments on animal control, including discussion of no-kill shelters and pet adoption. One person talked about having filed papers and everything to adopt a pet. And on the day she went back to pick up the pet, she found out it had been euthanized. So, and that's an issue that I completely concur in. We got to find a way not to kill healthy animals that could be adopted. The 24-25 budget, 13 public speakers, including the American Civil Liberties Union, call for more community involvement in the process, focusing on disadvantaged communities. A $9.7 billion budget was passed. Change land and use ordinance, moving from temporary to permanent. The Rancho Community Event Facility. There were 30 public comments on that issue. And that concludes my report. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Desert Valley Builders Association Membership Appreciation Night at the Palm Springs Air Museum. Again, that's always an exciting and excellent event. And then on the 26th, the Agua Caliente Tribal Water Authority meeting, and we approved the budget for the Water Authority. And there was a public hearing on proposed groundwater production fee for fiscal year 2025. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Director Duff, would you like to go?
Director Griffith is rubbing off on me because I left my notes at home today, so please bear with me as I try to go through this as good as I can. I apologize. The two CVWD board meetings that I attended in June 11th and June 25th, the 11th was focused on approving their budget and new canal rates, rack fees, etc. And then on the 25th, they were, from my recollection, they were discussing more of the canal connectivity, and then they were also approving their water report for 23-24. Let's see, the next thing I needed to report on was the 12th CVEP Morning Insights. Attended that with Directors Meyerhoff and Sewell and Director Martin. It was a fun breakfast. We got to hear about the film festival, the Film Society, all the multiple brands and names that they've held over the years, and meet their new publicity manager. And she was very enthusiastic and nice to listen to. Then we had on the 24th here in Desert Hot Springs, the CVAG General Assembly dinner and the vote to change over the chair. And our Mayor Mattis gave his departing remarks as being the last year's chair. And they talked about a lot of the successes and plans for the future as far as CVAG and how they're working in our community and surrounding our community. The other thing that I did want to mention, Director Martin and myself both signed a letter that Mr. Kirk had available regarding air quality concerns. And we did sign that letter to join in all the other communities that were forwarding that air quality concern letter as well. On the 12th, I did attend my legislative committee meeting. That was through Zoom. And then on the same day, I had I'm trying to find it here. CVAG and CV, it's not on here. That's funny. CVAG and my CVCC meetings. A large amount of those meetings were discussing the air quality. They had over 30 people from the public to speak to the Air Quality Regional Control Board, and that was full room and a lot of very heated, concerned residents. So again, that was the main topic. And then that appears to be it for me. Make sure I got them all. Yes, that was it. Thank you.
Vice President Griffith.
All right, if I could read my writing. We'll see. June 4th was a Desert Water Agency board meeting. The topic, it's budget, June is budget month, so it was about the budget, it was about employee pay increases, which went up 4.8%. Cost of living impact was $478,000. Their revenue is down. They will be using $1 million from reserved. The rack rate for pumpers will be increased $20 to $215 per acre foot, and they did reduce property tax by 1 cent to 0.07 per $100 of assessed value. Also was there on their June 18th meeting, and they again brought up the rec fee. I have no idea what this says. It looks like it says China something. So China something tram. I think it has something to do with one of their facilities at the tram. Talked about their monthly service charge. Would be going up from $38.32 to $40.72. Talked about their drought and revenue stabilization rates. And that was about it for the 18th. And that's actually all I did. So
Thank you. I just have two, and that's June 12th. We already spoke on it a little bit, but that was the CVEP Morning Insight meeting. I did think the presentation on the Film Society was interesting, but maybe not that relevant to MSWD. So I'm happy that at our last month's meeting, we did remove those Morning Insight meetings from our list of compensable meetings. But I do think that CVEP has a lot of good information and it's a good organization. So I'm glad that we have kept their annual economic summit as a compensable meeting. And I would just say to directors, if you keep an eye on their meetings and something seems very relevant, we can always add that as a one-off meeting that we can all attend. And then June 20th.
I just got to get clarification on that, because even though we wouldn't be compensated, we can still attend the meetings if we find something that it makes us want to go. So
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you do think it's something that would benefit all of us for attending, we can vote on it as being compensable.
yeah, okay.
June 20th, attended the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce annual installation dinner. Was very well attended. I was pretty surprised. It was the same night as one of the Firebirds' final games, and they still had about 500 people in the room. Plenty of people were wearing their Firebirds gear, so I think they might have skipped out a little early, but they awarded many of the businesses of the year in different categories across the valley, and then they installed all of the different boards for each city that participates in the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber. And I was happy to see that both Marion and Dory were listed on the Desert Hot Springs board. So I'm hoping some MSWD involvement and just having a well put together board here in Desert Hot Springs will bring some more of the chamber's presence here and help some of our business kind of grow and evolve. So that's all I have for those two. I do want to mention, though, I'll have it in my next month's report, but I did attend a chamber breakfast, legislative breakfast, and Greg Wallace was the speaker. And one of the big topics was air quality. And he and Eduardo Garcia are actually both having a meeting with South Coast AQMD next week to hopefully make some progress, some options and what can be done to help everyone here in the valley with the the fallout kind of from Tropical Storm Hillary. And that's all I have, and we'll move on to item 22, General Manager's Report. We did the Public Affairs Report on Thursday, and we'll have the Finance Report today.
Yes. Director of Finance, Arturo Ceja, is making his way to the podium right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Macy, President Sewell, and members of the board. It'll be a quick update on the finance report today. I do want to apologize because in the discussion about the lobby, it crossed my mind that we have not had actually a discussion about the reason why we're updating the bill. What started the discussion is we're implementing a lockbox service in the front office. Right now, when someone pays a bill with a check, we have to scan that check twice. Not only that, but we have to store it in a server somewhere in the district. That has created not only extra work for staff, but also space in our servers that we have to maintain. Not only that, but we now keep copies of checks that even though we have not had an issue or an attempt to get in there by anyone or lost any information, we don't want to open ourselves up as we continue to clean up and make things better at the district. So that's the main reason. The bank, what's going to happen now is checks, instead of coming to the district, are going to go to a lockbox where someone's going to open them in a bulk, run them through a scanner, and then send them to us as payment, similar as if you were to pay a bill payment online. That's how we're going to receive those files in the cash directly to the bank. The Terra form that gets submitted to us was not compatible with the bank. So now we have to move it from the top to the bottom, which started this whole conversation. And again, I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that as we continue the discussion. So thank you. In terms of the financial report, the month of May shows that we are revenue over expenses in budget, $2.6 million. The main reason for that is we are still running through some of the invoices from May up to now. There's some that have been delayed, and primarily that's the main reason. It's timing of when we get some of those invoices submitted for the district. We are right now currently under by 250,000 in operating. Primarily, again, some of that revenue that needs to come in, some of the grant that we're still waiting on, and also moving on to the non-operating items that is above 7 million, primarily because of the Skyborn project that submitted that payment, 4.7 million during the year, in the grant that was updated for additional funds that we're receiving. Again, total net income, $6.8 million over last year. Another item in here, the interest returns, 1.3%. As you have heard the news, the Fed is talking about reducing those rates again. So we are probably going to see that number go down. However, it's been good for the district that we've been collecting additional revenue on our investments. It's basically sitting in the bank. With that said, I am in discussions with Wells Fargo to extend that $15 million loan that we have outstanding with them through the completion of that project, not just the regional plant, also the conveyance line and the M2 project. They're getting back to me with the terms of what we're going to need in order to continue to extend that loan. And at this point, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions from the board, Director Martin? Director Duff?
Thank you. General Manager Macy reminded me of a question that I had, but I had forgotten my notes earlier. So thank you very much for reminding me. At our one of the recent CVWD board meetings, they were talking about the need to create a separate account for all outgoing monies because they were having trouble with pretty large numbers of washed checks. So my first question, you mentioned we haven't experienced that yet. Do you feel that we need to make this, make a separated expense account, so to speak, from our payroll and our general fund?
Thank you. I know we don't need to do that.
Thank you.
The main reason for that is, and it was brought up that day, when we write a check, we send the file to the bank telling them, expect this check. If someone comes in to cash a check that we have not submitted for, it will not get cashed by the bank.
Beautiful.
And that is a process we go through in order for us to maintain, that issue of not someone copying our ABA and our account number that writes checks online all day long. We will not have that issue unless it's by intent. And obviously we don't have that issue.
Great. I did have a couple other questions. They were under the finance division report, but they weren't specifically the numbers that you had just addressed. I'm actually looking at page 5 of the report, and I was looking at the drop off, the accounts that we're losing versus the new accounts that we're gaining, and then some of the disconnects that we had. And I was looking at our disconnect and reconnect in particular. And it's looking like we're going approximately close to 40% every month of losing. And we're not really necessarily gaining all of those new customers back. And I was wondering if we could get a little deeper dive into these particular numbers, the percentage of residential versus the percentage of commercial. And then on the reconnections, do those numbers go back into the new connections, or are those already separated?
They are separated. What you're seeing, the main reason for that 40% is rentals. At the end of every month, when someone moves out, they come in and submit their termination. By a lot of times it takes a month for the owner to clean up that property, for them to get it ready for the next renter, and for us to process any new applications. That is why you don't see the equal number of addition and disconnects.
Yeah, I went back actually to January, and I was looking at this portion every month, and every single month was close to that 40%, but we were only getting like 8% back.
Correct.
And so that's a trend that obviously kind of caught my attention, and I just wanted us to, again, do a little deeper dive for the board so we could kind of get a better idea of these disconnect notices, how many of them, or disconnections, how many were commercial, how many were renters, how many were private property, just so that we as a board, as we're going through all of this conservation California way of life and the industrial wastewater programs and all the different changes that we're seeing, I think it would help us kind of see the future a little bit better if we had a clear understanding on this percentage trend.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because then one of the things I'm adding to the report is also refunds on closed accounts for all of those tenants that we have to process. Because we do have to collect a deposit, pretty much almost 95% of the time, we do have a refund to provide to those customers after their last bill gets applied to it. So
Okay,
I'll add to that report.
thank you. Even if it's just a briefing next month to kind of give us a 6-month view of those numbers, I'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, great job. And I look forward to hearing from Wells Fargo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President?
She triggered something. And it's on topic, but not on topic. So when we're doing our budget, we set our projections based on connections, correct? Do we have an idea of how many of them are short-term rentals? Because I know the short-term rental market is down. So if we're counting them as full residences, we're actually not doing ourselves a favor, since they're not going to use the amount of water that a typical residence was. Do we track that? Do we take that into consideration at all?
It's based on the property itself, because we cannot estimate who's moving out, who's moving in, how many people are actually going to be there. We always budget at the maximum. And so for water services, there's no way for us to do that. In fact, we don't budget for reconnects because we don't know how many people are going to move in.
I'm not talking about rentals.
Right.
I'm talking about Airbnbs.
Okay.
In turn, what I'm saying is that, so if we are counting on them as being water users and counting on estimating the average bill is $25 or $30 per month, but you have a short-term vacation rental that's not doing that, are we thinking, or should we think about finding out from the city how many of those are? So maybe you do a factor of they're only going to use 25% of the bill or something like that, because I know that their market is down. And so it's just something that popped into my head when you started talking about renters in terms of that.
General Manager Mazie had talked about this, that we need to start looking at some of those properties. And if they're Airbnb, they should be recorded as commercial or apartment complexes for that reason, because that is based on a different rate. And we have actually started to look at that, but we have not come up with a final, simply because it is hard to get that information from the city. We're going to have to do additional research to find out how we can get that and determine to make that change in our system. But yeah, that is something we haven't.
Has some addresses.
Yeah.
Before you move on to the next topic, one of the things that why we're not tracking it specifically to the classification, what we've done this year during the budget process is something that I've never seen done. In the 13 years I've been in the Coachella Valley, we actually looked at the consumption as going down. Usually, we always say it's going up because typically it is. We're always at it. We're the fastest growing community in desert or in Coachella Valley. But we actually looked at our consumption going down, and it may be attributed to the question you just asked. So do we know what the number is, or do we know what the reduction is? No, but we actually did take a reduction in consumption because we've seen those trends going down, and we wanted to make sure to give you the best budget we could, which included, for the first time in my experience, a decrease in consumption. So we don't have the actual numbers, but we do see the trends, and we followed the overarching trends when we put together the budget. So
I think we might want to consider that because they are going to use less water because they're vacant most of the time. So, the other thing is, just a question. Do we have a percentage of how many people still pay by mail?
That percentage, I would say it's about 50%.
Wow.
It is pretty high. We do have a large community that does not trust a lot of either the mail service or the bank, and they prefer to come in and see someone in their face and say, here, I'm dropping this off. And that's
That much, I know that much, but I just meant the people who would just mail them in.
yeah, it's
with
about
that.
50% in terms of how much we get, which triggered the need to do that service as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I had nothing further, but just thank you to Director Duff and Vice President. I think that was a good discussion as far as getting a better kind of snapshot of where we're at. And I do like the idea of more detail on those disconnections. I think that would give us just a better idea of kind of where everything's happening. But thank you. Did we have anything further on General Manager report?
no, not at this time.
Item 23, District Council comments.
Comments at this time?
And just to clarify, no closed session today.
Oh, we do have a closed session. Do you want me to read the closed session?
We can do that when we go into closed session, but yes, we did. We had a closed session on Thursday. We did not share some of the specific settlement details. And we're going to be talking about that today in closed session because the question came up. We didn't have we didn't have a complete answer for you, but we have one now. So we wanted to make sure that the board heard that. So we will have a closed session.
Great. Item 24, Director comments and requests. This includes general comments, requests for future agenda items, and requests for future meetings. Director Martin?
Yes, I have two things. First, I want to compliment staff on putting together the water quality report. Really outstanding and very well done, very professional. And the second thing I want to bring out is happy birthday to both Ivan and Amber. We have birthday muffins in the back over there.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to ask you how old you guys are, so that because it makes me feel even older. Anyway, happy birthday.
Thank you. Director Duff?
Great work, everyone. And I just really thank the board for allowing the freedom to have the kind of discussions we had today. And some of the workshops that we've had, we've also been able to really delve into some deep discussions on things that a lot of people in our surrounding communities are not talking about. So I'm really proud of us for that respect. And I just wanted to say thank you to my fellow board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President?
I wanted to bring something up, which kind of raised a little bit of a red flag today, which was, first of all, kudos and to all of the workers that are out there in this heat. It is brutal. But the comment was made that they don't necessarily take breaks and they don't necessarily have places to cool off. And so just so you're aware, Cal OSHA is very heavy on that right now. There has been numerous, I don't know what you want to call them. If you're in business, you subscribe to certain things. And so you get all sorts of notifications that Cal OSHA has just sent out some, I guess, reiteration of the guidelines. And I want to make sure that we are following them because this heat is deadly. And the last thing we want is to put any of our employees at risk. So if they are not getting breaks, and I think it's, once it's above 82, it's every so often you have to have a 10 minutes. I don't know, it's 10 minutes every hour. Yeah, it kills productivity, but it's better than killing an employee. So I just want to touch base on that and remind everybody, please make sure you hydrate, stay out of the sun, and get somewhere cool if you can.
If I may.
Yes,
Thank you.
go ahead, Dan.
Vice President Griffin, that's actually a great point. Mr. Nutter, I don't want to say anything terribly bad about him. What he was actually getting at is that they don't get to go and maybe hang out inside an air conditioned building. But if one person is very aware of what Cal Lister requires as far as the braking, their brakes, all the supervisors and operations, as far as providing a cool area to rest, the shade, depending on the temperature, how often they break, they're well aware of that, and I will pass that along, and I'm glad that you guys are concerned about it, but he didn't intend that they didn't get breaks and that we were out there slave driving it, so.
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to reiterate because I don't want that to be the message that gets out there to the public.
Understood,
how
I'm
things
glad you
go.
reiterated that. I'll definitely pass it on, but thank you for the clarification. Sure.
Yeah, if there's not a location where they can go take an adequate break, all the vehicles do have air conditioning, so they can go into a vehicle and they can stay as long as they want to until they're safe. Their safety is the utmost concern of ours.
Thank you. And I'll just do a general echo of all these comments. Happy birthday to Director Duff. I appreciate the work of our staff, all those guys out in the field. And I know Director Martin's not too happy sometimes at the thickness of our board packets, but thank you to all of our admin staff. It really gives us a better understanding of what's going on. And I think for any of our public that's interested to have the level of detail that we have now, it's really beneficial. So
My complaints about the thickness of it were tongue-in-cheek
And-
assessments of it, and to that extent, I want to thank Amber for joining the board. But I really like the fact that the information is there to make an educated decision if you choose to do it. Otherwise, you can just rely on staff's recommendation. But you have that choice, and I'm glad that we're getting all the information at our board meetings and not just somebody's assessment of what they think is important for us to see and what's not important. So no, I'm very happy with, even though I have to start working out in order to carry the thing, but I'm very happy with it.
And just imagine if this was when you started on the board and when you were using slate,
Yeah.
how heavy that would be.
Yeah.
And with that, we will head into closed session. Counselor, would you?
Here.
Well, I need to read out the item first. So closed session, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, name of case, Mission Springs Water District, a California Water District, that should be County Water District. Plaintiff versus Southern California Edison Company, a California corporation, case number CVP S2402637.
Thank you. We'll head into closed session.
You gonna do that here or?
We are reconvening from closed session. Counselor, can you report out?
Yes, this is the report out on the closed session item, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Paragraph 1 of subdivision D of section 54956.9. The matter being Mission Springs Water District, a county water district. Plaintiff versus Southern California Edison Company, a California corporation. Case CVP S2402637. No reportable action at this time.
Thank you. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.